Welcome to our deep dive, everybody. Today, we are going to be looking into all things psychic phenomena and paranormal experiences. And wow, you guys have sent in a real mix of stuff this time. Academic studies, historical accounts. We've even got instructions on how to build a radionic camera. Can you believe that?
A radionic camera, huh? Sounds intriguing.
I know, right? It's a lot to go through, but, well, we're going to give it our best shot and see what we can uncover. What do you think?
Sounds like fun. And you know what strikes me is how these sources really highlight, just how long humans have been fascinated with, well, the unexplained, right?
Right.
We've got like ancient myths right alongside modern scientific theories, and you've got skeptical investigations right next to like enthusiastic accounts of things that seem impossible.
It's amazing, right? And some of these stories are so wild. Like, have you heard of time slips?
Time slips?
Yeah, where people like seemingly just get transported to another era, sometimes for just a moment, sometimes even longer. One source even mentioned someone who claimed they walked right into a 19th century battlefield.
Wow. Okay, whether we believe them or not, though, it does raise this really interesting question about time, right?
Yeah.
About the nature of time itself. I mean, is it really as fixed and linear as we tend to think?
Right.
Some of the sources suggest, alternative views like this chronotope concept.
Chronotope.
Yeah, it's a physicist's theory about spiraling energy that might influence how we perceive time.
Really?
Yeah. It really challenges our usual understanding of how time operates.
It definitely makes you think.
Yeah.
And then there's this whole other area of past lives. Did you read much about that?
Yeah, it's fascinating.
Yeah, like Dr. Ian Stevenson. He dedicated his whole career to studying children who claim to remember past lives.
Incredible.
I know. And there's this one case about a boy who just so vividly described a life as a pilot who died in a plane crash. Yeah, and get this, he even provided details that like actually seem to check out.
Okay, let's take a closer look at that case for a sec. So what specific details did the boy actually provide? And how did Stevenson go about verifying them?
Yeah, good point. Because that's one of the biggest like points of contention in this field, right?
Definitely.
Like needing that verifiable evidence that goes beyond just anecdotal accounts.
Absolutely.
Right. Okay, so the source mentions the boy provided the name of the village where he supposedly lived in this past life, right?
Okay.
As well as details about his family and the type of plane he flew.
Okay.
And so Stevenson actually traveled to the village.
Wow.
And he found that many of the details, they actually matched up, like with records and accounts from people who knew the deceased pilot.
That's pretty intriguing. And Stevenson's work it's considered groundbreaking by some, that's for sure. But, even he acknowledged the limitations of just relying solely on anecdotal evidence, right?
Yeah.
I mean, critics, they argue that memories, especially those of young children, they can be easily influenced, and that apparent corroboration can sometimes be due to coincidence or selective reporting.
Yeah, that makes sense. So how do we actually separate genuine memories from those that might be imagined or influenced?
That's the million-dollar question, right? In this field. Researchers have attempted to use all sorts of methods, everything from hypnotic regression to brain imaging, trying to study these past life claims. But interpreting the results, I mean, it remains a huge challenge. Yeah. And there's no single, universally accepted approach.
It's definitely a complex issue.
Oh yeah.
But speaking of a complex, did you see that research project mentioned? Project #2, resume work on the Delaware camera. What is that all about?
Project #2, resume work on the Delaware camera. I don't know. I don't think I saw that one. Fill me in.
Okay, so this Delaware camera, it was supposedly designed to capture images of something called pre-physical energies.
Pre-physical energies.
I know, right? Sounds like something out of science fiction.
It really does.
So the idea behind this Delaware camera, it's based on the principles of something called radionics. Yeah. And basically the idea is that thought and intention can have a measurable impact on physical systems.
It's a controversial area of study for sure.
It definitely pushes the boundaries of what we typically consider science, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But you know what else does that? Those stories about ancient oracles, like the Dodonian Jupiter in Greece.
Oh, the Dodonian Jupiter.
Yeah, priests there, they allegedly received prophecies by listening to the rustling of oak leaves.
Really? By listening to oak leaves?
I know. And then there are the Sibyls, these women across various cultures who were believed to have, prophetic powers.
Yeah. The Sibyls, they're particularly interesting figures, often associated with very specific locations or temples, and they were seen as intermediaries, right?
Intermediaries.
Yeah, between the human and the divine, channeling messages from the gods, or maybe even glimpsing into the future.
Wow. Do you think there's a connection between these ancient practices and our modern understanding of psychic abilities?
I mean, throughout history, there have always been these individuals and traditions claiming access to knowledge or insights that go beyond our ordinary perception, right?
Right.
And whether through divination or trance states or other methods, I mean, these practices, they suggest a human capacity that we're only beginning to understand.
It's a fascinating thought, isn't it? That maybe there's more to our minds, to our perception of reality than we currently grasp. And it makes me wonder about the different ways these abilities have been perceived throughout history.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. The way we interpret and explain these phenomena, it's so often shaped by the prevailing cultural and scientific beliefs of the time, right? I mean, what was once attributed to divine intervention or supernatural forces, might now be explored through the lens of psychology or neuroscience or even quantum physics.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So we've got these tantalizing hints of a world beyond the ordinary, stories that challenge our understanding of time, perception, and the nature of consciousness itself. But where do we go from here? How do we actually sift through the myths and the anecdotes and the scientific inquiries to try to make sense of it all?
That's the challenge, right? And the excitement of exploring this territory. We need to look at the evidence, both anecdotal and scientific, with a critical but open mind.
Yeah.
We need to consider the cultural and historical contexts that shape our understanding of these phenomena. And perhaps most importantly, we need to ask ourselves, what if some of these seemingly impossible things are actually possible?
Lots to think about.
Yeah, for sure.
It's like we're putting together this giant puzzle, but we're not even sure what the picture is supposed to be yet.
Right.
One of the pieces that really caught my eye was this concept of transmutation, something you mentioned earlier.
Yeah, transmutation. What is that all about again?
Well, transmutation it's a really central concept in alchemy, right?
Well.
The ancient practice of trying to transform like base metals into gold.
Right.
But it also has some relevance, I think, to our discussion of psychic phenomena.
Okay.
The idea is that consciousness, or maybe some form of energy, it can be transformed or directed to actually influence reality. Okay, I see where you're going with this. It's like in that book, The Secret Life of Plants, which suggests that plants are way more aware than we think they are.
Yeah.
Even responding to human emotions.
Right.
So could this be connected to the idea of consciousness affecting the physical world? Like could it even explain some paranormal events?
It's a fascinating connection to explore, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, if plants can exhibit some form of awareness or sensitivity, it does raise questions about the nature of consciousness itself, right?
Right.
Is it solely a product of brains, as we typically think, or could it be a more fundamental property of the universe, something more than that?
That's a big question.
Yeah.
It makes me think about some of these other sources, like the work of Kozyrev. Yeah, a Russian scientist with some pretty unorthodox views on time.
Right, Kozyrev. He proposed that time isn't just a linear progression,
Yeah.
but has this more complex structure to it.
Really?
Yeah. He even suggested that time could carry a form of energy that interacts with consciousness.
Whoa. Okay, now we're getting into some truly mind-bending territory.
I know, right?
And it makes me think about those stories of people who claim to have had like out-of-body experiences, like Robert Monroe's journeys out of the body.
Yeah.
It describes his explorations of different states of consciousness, and there are countless accounts from just everyday people, reporting similar experiences, often during near-death events or moments of intense stress.
Yeah, and what's so fascinating is how these personal experiences, how they intersect with scientific inquiry.
Right.
Like researchers like Charles Tart, whose work you mentioned earlier, they've studied altered states of consciousness in laboratory settings, trying to understand the physiological and psychological factors at play.
it seems like there's this whole growing field of study that's dedicated to understanding the connection between the mind and the body.
Absolutely, like psychoneuroimmunology, for example.
Psychoneuroimmunology.
Yeah. It explores the links between the mind, the nervous system, and the immune system.
Wow.
And this field could potentially provide a framework for understanding phenomena like psychic healing or the influence of thoughts on our health.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
And then there's Nikola Tesla, the brilliant inventor, right?
Yes, a lot. Yeah.
He spoke of effusive ether, this universal energy field he believes could be harnessed for all sorts of incredible things. So could this be the same energy that some psychics claim to tap into?
I mean, Tesla was ahead of his time in so many ways. And his ideas about energy and its potential, I mean, they continue to intrigue scientists and inventors today.
Absolutely.
While we can't definitively say whether effusive ether is directly linked to psychic phenomena,
yeah,
it does point towards the interconnectedness of all things,
yeah.
which is a concept that many mystical traditions have espoused for centuries.
Yeah, for sure. It seems like we keep circling back to this idea that there might be, more to reality than meets the eye.
Yeah.
That there might be hidden connections and energies that we're only just beginning to understand.
Sure. Right.
But let's not forget that not all of our sources are completely on board with this idea of psychic powers, right? We've got a fair amount of material on parapsychology, the field that tries to study paranormal phenomena scientifically.
Yeah, parapsychology.
What do you make of all that?
Well, parapsychology has this long and complex history, right?
Yeah.
It's marked by both, intriguing findings, but also methodological challenges.
Oh, really?
Like researchers like J.B. Rhine and Louisa Rhine, for instance, they conducted some really groundbreaking work, using controlled experiments to investigate extrasensory perception.
Right.
But their methods have also been, subject to criticism, with some arguing that their results could be explained by just statistical anomalies or other non-paranormal factors.
So it's not as simple as saying, science has proven psychic abilities exist.
Yeah, unfortunately, no. I mean, studying paranormal phenomena scientifically is inherently difficult. That's part of the problem.
Right.
The very nature of these experiences makes them really hard to replicate or measure consistently.
Nice.
And the personal beliefs that are often associated with paranormal phenomena, they can influence both the researchers and the subjects involved, potentially leading to bias.
Yeah, that makes sense. And it reminds me of how some historical attempts to study psychic abilities were really influenced by existing prejudices, like Cesar Lombroso,
yeah,
who tried to link criminal tendencies to specific facial features. It seems like a lot of these early efforts were driven by a desire to find like simple physical explanations for something that might be far more complex.
Absolutely. We see a similar pattern in the case of Rosa Kuleshova.
Rosa Kuleshova.
Yeah, the woman studied for her alleged ability to see with her fingertips.
With her fingertips.
Yeah, while researchers tried to explain her abilities through maybe heightened sensitivity or unconscious cues, there was always this sense of mystery surrounding her case. It highlights how difficult it can be to separate, genuine psychic ability from other factors like heightened senses or unconscious perception.
Okay, so where does this leave us? Are we just chasing shadows? Is there any like solid evidence that psychic phenomena are real, or is it all just smoke and mirrors?
That's the question that continues to fuel the debate and the inquiry in this field, right?
Yeah.
While some intriguing studies do suggest there might be a possible effect,
Right.
The results are often difficult to replicate and they're open to interpretation.
Yeah.
And the potential for fraud or trickery in this field is always a concern.
Of course. It seems like we've hit a bit of a wall here.
Yeah.
On the one hand, you have all these captivating stories and anecdotal accounts.
Yeah.
And on the other, you have the scientific community remaining largely skeptical.
Yeah.
What are we supposed to make of all of this?
I think it's important to remember that the absence of evidence is not evidence of absence.
What do you mean?
Well, just because we haven't definitively proven the existence of psychic phenomena doesn't mean they don't exist.
Right.
It simply means we haven't yet developed the tools or the methods to study them adequately.
Okay, so we need to keep searching, keep exploring, keep asking questions.
Precisely, and perhaps as we learn more about the nature of consciousness, the brain and the universe itself,
right,
we'll begin to see these phenomena in a new light.
Okay.
You know, maybe what we currently consider paranormal will one day just become part of our understanding of the natural world.
That's a hopeful thought.
Yeah.
But it also raises a whole new set of questions, right?
Of course.
Like if we do eventually find scientific evidence for things like telepathy or precognition,
right,
how will that change our understanding of ourselves and the universe? What are the implications for our personal lives, for our society, for our ethics?
Yeah, those are all important questions to consider.
Yeah.
And perhaps by engaging with these questions now, you know, we can be better prepared for whatever discoveries the future holds.
Good point.
Yeah.
It's like we almost need a whole new scientific paradigm, you know, to even begin to grasp some of these concepts.
Yeah, it's pretty wild stuff.
Like what if the past isn't really gone?
Yeah.
You know, what if it exists as some kind of hologram that we can access under certain conditions?
That's a concept that some physicists are actually exploring.
Really?
Yeah, this idea that time might not be the linear one-directional flow that we perceive it to be.
Right.
Some of our sources drawing on ancient mystical traditions as well as modern physics, you know, they suggest that time could be multidimensional.
Multidimensional.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or even cyclical.
So past, present, and future, they might all be interconnected in ways we can't even imagine.
Exactly.
That's pretty mind-blowing. It makes me wonder if those old myths and stories about prophecies and visions of the future, you know, if they might have some basis in reality, even if they were expressed in symbolic language.
It's certainly a possibility worth considering.
Yeah.
You know, myths, they often contain kernels of wisdom and insights that reflect deep truths about the human condition and the universe we inhabit.
Right. Okay, but how do we reconcile this with our everyday experience of time moving forward? You know, how can we have free will if the future is already predetermined?
Those are some of the biggest questions, you know, that philosophers and physicists have been grappling with for centuries.
Yeah.
One possibility is that the future might exist as a range of possibilities, right?
And our choices in the present, they influence which path we take.
So it's not necessarily a fixed destiny, but more like a choose your own adventure kind of situation.
Yeah, that's one way to think about it.
I like that.
And it ties back to the idea of transmutation we were talking about before.
Right.
That consciousness might actually play a role in shaping reality.
This all makes me think of Sal, this concept from Tibetan Buddhism that's mentioned in one of the sources.
Sure.
Yeah, it's described as a kind of psychic energy that can influence the material world.
Oh, interesting.
Is this similar to what we've been talking about, do you think?
There are definitely some parallels. You
Yeah.
know, Saul is often associated with the ability to manifest intentions or to bring about specific outcomes.
Right.
It's a concept that really highlights the potential power of the mind to shape reality.
It seems like we keep dancing around this question of whether consciousness is simply a product of the brain or something more fundamental, something that might even exist independently of the physical body.
Yeah, that's the ultimate mystery, isn't it?
It really is.
And it's a question that science alone may not be able to answer. You know, we might need to draw on insights from philosophy, spirituality, and even personal experience to really get a fuller picture.
Yeah, it's a lot to wrap our heads around.
A lot to think about.
So where do we go from here? Are we doomed to forever debate the existence of psychic phenomena without ever ever reaching a definitive conclusion?
You know, I don't think we're doomed at all.
No.
No. The pursuit of understanding, it's valuable in itself. You know,
Right.
even if we never fully unravel the mysteries of the paranormal, and who knows, maybe one day science will catch up with human experience, right? And provide a framework that satisfies both our curiosity and our need for rigorous evidence.
Yeah, I like that perspective that the journey itself is part of the adventure. So
Yeah.
for all you listeners out there, keep those minds open and those imaginations firing.
Absolutely.
We've only just dipped our toes into the vast ocean of the unexplained.
And here's a final thought to ponder as you continue your own explorations. If consciousness is indeed a fundamental aspect of reality, not simply a product of the brain, what are the implications for our understanding of the universe and ourselves?
That's a great question to leave us with, something to contemplate as we venture back into our everyday lives. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the paranormal. Until next time, keep questioning, keep exploring, and keep an eye out for the strange and wonderful.